Hello everybody, Josh12 back here again with another video, and I'm here with my official review for Dragon Ball Super the Manga Chapter 13. Now, of course, if you haven't read this chapter, please go check it out, because this review may contain spoilers. But that being said, let's get into the newest chapter of Dragon Ball Super the Manga. Now, of course, this has been a very controversial chapter for Dragon Ball Super. To date, it's definitely the biggest one that everyone can't stop talking about it, and it's been a very big thing. And why is that? Well, there's some transformations that Goku does, and a lot of dialogue that contradicts shit that goes on in previous content. Now, of course, let's get the overall summary of what this chapter is. It's basically the tail end of the Champa Universe 6 tournament arc, and of course, it's Goku's fight with Hit. It pretty much plays out pretty much to an extent the same way it did in the anime. Goku becomes Super Saiyan Blue. He does a Kamehameha against Hit's time skip, ability, and then, they end up losing against each other, I guess, to a certain extent. The Omni King comes in, says what's up, shakes hands with Goku, leaves, and then they make a wish with the Super Dragon Balls, and then they go back home. That's pretty much the extent of what happens in this chapter, but the big thing that happens within the chapter that's really controversial and continuously pisses off every Dragon Ball enthusiast on YouTube, which is hilarious, is of course the transformations that Goku does and what he says. First off, he goes Super Saiyan, then Super Saiyan God, which is the big thing, and I'll talk about that in a second, and then of course ends up with Super Saiyan Blue. Now let's start off with Super Saiyan God. I personally love the fact that Toyotarō had the balls to just be like, you know what, I'm bringing back that shit, and it's so freaking awesome to see that transformation come back. I know there's a lot of people who are 50-50 on it. Some people are like, isn't it kind of relevant? Is it irrelevant? Which version is stronger? Is it blue? Is it red? It's a huge debacle within the community, and it is what it is at the end of the day. But for me personally, I fucking love the fact that Toyotarō put Super Saiyan God in this chapter, because it feels like, I think personally, it was just a huge disservice as a writer on Akira Toriyama's part for never really going in deep and, diving into the lore and mythology of what Super Saiyan God could be. And he kind of just scrapped that just to go right to, hey, Super Saiyan Blue, Resurrection F, check it out, folks, the new movie. And it's just, I feel like it was just a big disservice as a writer to really not talk about the possibilities with Super Saiyan God instead of just scrapping it and going into a completely new transformation, which doesn't even clarify anything, which is it stronger, is it weaker, which one's better? It just, how did Vegeta get it? I still want to answer for that, which no one seems to care about anymore, but it is what it is. It's just something that I wish there were more explanations for when it comes to this God mode, but we don't get that. So I do say huge kudos for Toyotarō for putting it in. However, let's get into the major details as to why this chapter is so controversial and why people are pissed off. And that is, of course, the dialogue. In between the fights where Goku's fighting Hit, it's pretty epic. It's badass. I mean, like, for me personally, I feel like the best way to go with this chapter is to not look at the dialogue. Just look at Goku fight Hit, because that's where Toyotarō in this chapter exceeds. He does justice to a fight that's supposed to be really epic. And even though I really like the anime version, the manga version, at least up until the Kamehameha wave between Hit and Goku, oh my god, it's so perfect. It's brutal, it's epic, it's awesome, it's badass. Goku looks awesome, Hit looks badass. It's just an epic, awesome fight that Toyotarō illustrates within each panel of the chapter. But moving off of that, the big thing that really annoys everybody is what Goku says in between each section of the chapter when he's in his transformation states. First off, he goes into Super Saiyan, and he says things like stamina. The stamina is a huge issue with Super Saiyan, which doesn't make that much sense and contradicts a lot of portions within Dragon Ball Z, where Goku obviously mastered Super Saiyan. Hell, even the kids can do Super Saiyan. If there's any stamina issues with Super Saiyan, I guess the kids would have that problem, but for the most part, everyone on the face of the planet when it comes to this universe has mastered Super Saiyan, so the fact that it still has these stamina issues is very odd to say from Goku's point of view. Moving off of that, we go to Super Saiyan Blue, and there's huge, really big problems with that because it's clearly stated between Vegeta through inner monologue and of course with Goku that Super Saiyan Blue takes 10th of his power away, so it's huge drain on his power supply when he's fighting, which is why he's more tired and why Vegeta was so tired in between each chapter of the fight in the tournament. And for me personally, that makes really little to no sense, because Goku and Vegeta trained for years with this transformation state. Say what you will about God and blue and red versus blue, or where the fuck, which is better, which is more powerful. Bitch between yourselves. But if there's one thing that's clear within the manga itself and with the anime, is that Goku and Vegeta have trained with this transformation with Whis and by themselves in the hyperbolic time chamber for 3 fucking years. 3 fucking years! So it makes no sense that they would have such huge problems with these transformations when they've mastered them, or at least quasi-mastered them. So it really makes no sense to me that these problems would be relevant in the chapter. For me personally, when I look at it, I feel like this is Toyotaro's, I guess, writing way, or just, it's a classic old man's kind of writing way, which is, this is to build tension, which is, how is Goku gonna win if he fucking can't fucking power up to his extent, and he hasn't mastered any of these transformations? But at the end of the day, it's just still stupid, because we do know he mastered these things. So why is he saying these things that contradict prior content that is canon? In the long run, for me personally, I'm heavily conflicted with this chapter because, number one, I love the manga of Dragon Ball Super. Yes, there's been little tiny things here and there that kind of bother me, like the Piccolo chapter that we got recently, and overall, like, certain things that characters say and do. Yes, they are annoying, but if there's one thing that really annoys me, is the fact that this is a clear example of Toei Animation and Shueisha and Jump Comics and any of this shit that's contained within the Dragon Ball verse are not taking the time to go look up what's canon, what's not canon, what characters can say and what characters can't say. I feel like this should have been previously established within the ending of Battle of Gods. Like, the second Battle of Gods came out, Akira Toriyama clearly shown that he really didn't know his verse anymore. He really didn't understand his characters. He really didn't know what characters really stood for anymore. Granted, it was an amazing movie, it was a great story, it was a good return for Dragon Ball, but at the end of the day, it still showed there was major flaws within Akira Toriyama returning to this franchise. So I feel like ever since that came out, they should have created like a Bible, or at least like a gigantic chart of Dragon Ball related stuff, where it's like, whenever Akira Toriyama or whoever creates a new outline and draft for the show or any upcoming content for Dragon Ball, what they should have done was created something that says what you can and can't do. And granted, fans have done that in the past. You know, a lot of people have created books talking about Dragon Ball, the lore of Dragon Ball, the history, and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like that's cool for fans, but the people who are in charge don't know that. Like, it's clear within this chapter in and of itself, which is the manga and anime really don't matter at the end of the day. Granted, the whole show is just a spin-off of Z, but it just shows, and it's just very prevalent and highlights the fact that this is a fucking push product. It's basically like, it's clear as day. It's like Akira Toriyama writes something, the anime and the manga take the general outline of what that is. Okay, like Goku fights hit, Super Saiyan Blue, Kamehameha Wave, then end of fight. And then they fill in the blanks in between for each one. And even though I respect that because it gives artists and creators like Toyotarō to do what they want, like Super Saiyan God, which is awesome, but it also creates conflicts between canon. I kind of feel like if Akira Toriyama's original Dragon Ball and Z is like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Super is like Fox Marvel, where it's like, it's the same thing, it's the same branding, but its canon and continuity makes no sense in comparison. You know what I mean? It just feels that way. It's like, if Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z is the canon, anime and manga, then Super is like Fox Marvel, where it's like continuity and canon don't mean anything. We're just making shit here. Fuck you. We make the money, you buy the toys, motherfuckers. That's kind of what this chapter kind of stands for me. And it has me completely conflicted. I love the manga. Up until this point, with the exception of the Piccolo chapter and with this one, it's very conflicting because I love the manga, but I also don't like the fact that some people don't understand these things and write stupidity. I feel like there's 50-50 with me when it comes to this. On one hand, I really enjoy this chapter for the artwork, illustrations, and fight. The second hand is that I don't like it because the dialogue was awful, the writing wasn't that good, and it just feels heavily rushed just to end this chapter to just go right into the Trunks arc, which I feel like is what Jump Comics and everyone over who's creating these Dragon Ball content really wanted to do. So with all that being said and done, if I had to rate this, my final verdict is definitely conflicting. I really don't know. Like, if I was basing this on a writing standpoint, this is a solid 5 out of 10. If I was basing this on Toyotaro's classic fucking epic action and fight between Hit and Goku, it's a solid freaking, you know, like 8 or 9 out of 10. And if I was basing this like on story, it's kind of like a 7 at best. So if I mix all these things together, my final verdict for this chapter of 13 of the manga of Dragon Ball Super, it's definitely a solid 6 out of 10. It's a good episode. It's a good chapter. I feel like a lot of people are kind of overly bashing it for the sake of just bashing it because, you know, there's lots of Dragon Ball enthusiasts on YouTube, and, you know, when someone or something says something stupid, they get off on that shit, and it's hilarious to watch as an outsider. But if you know the canon as well as you should, then you know what's right, what's not right, and what to ignore. And that's kind of like where I'm coming from, which is, I know it's canon, I know it's not canon, so if a character says something that's stupid, that's just like, you know, that's just the creator's way of saying like, well, we don't really care. That's kind of like where we go from here. And, you know, as long as I continue to get good content, I'm okay with it. But when they do give us something that's kind of stupid, then of course I'm going to talk about it. But for the most part, I understand what's going on, so it's not really going to bother me. I feel like this is the best way you can do. If this chapter really does overly piss you off, I feel like this is what you do. You buy the chapter, you buy the manga, get the chapter 13, get like a bottle of fucking whiteout, you know, at a fucking Office Max or whatever, and just white out all the dialogue that Goku has and Vegeta and Hit has in this chapter, and that's pretty much it. It still will be a good chapter. Maybe it's a little heavily rushed by the end, but for the most part, it is a good chapter, with the exception of these dialogue pieces that Goku and Vegeta have between Hit's battle, and that's pretty much the end of it. But with that being said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter review. Let me know what your personal thoughts are in the comment section below. Yes, I understand there were some fuck-ups, but it still was pretty awesome and epic to see Goku versus Hit. I really enjoyed it. Granted, if I had to compare it to the anime, I will admit the Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 10 was a superior move on the anime's part. I mean, that's still like the highlight to 2016 for me. I wish the manga could have done that as well, instead of going into all these weird areas of like, you know, these really blurred areas of like, oh, Super Saiyan has too much stamina issues. Oh, Super Saiyan Blue takes a lot of our energy. Super Saiyan God's way more powerful than Vegeta. How's Vegeta Super Saiyan Blue again? You know, these are just issues that I wish, you know, they can take care in-house, but I guess we're just gonna have to deal with it. Or just someone just go over there and just be like, hey, fucko, fuck, you fucked up, do something about it, you know? That's really where I'm coming from. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, but that's pretty much it. My final verdict stands as a 6 out of 10. Let me know what you think. Shameless plug time. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jock12. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And hope you guys enjoyed. And this has been Jock12.